Our next guest, he's a dentist here in Albuquerque. So everyone, please give it up for Dr. Gary Sanchez. How's it going, Dr. Sanchez?
How are you?
Thank you so much for coming on the show.
Nice to be here.
This is awesome. I'm so excited. Again, Mark had such a strong recommendation for you. This is such a privilege to be able to sit down with you. I talked to you just the other day, and you were like you were doing a conference at somewhere, and you were busy. So you have started an app. You started a website. You have this website called thewhyinstitute.com, and you've created an app called the Why app,
Yes.
where it helps people find out what their why is. I
Yeah.
first want to know, how did you get into that to start it?
So you said I was a dentist, right? When you look in the phone book, let's say years ago in Albuquerque, under dentists, there would be hundreds and hundreds, 600 dentists. So the question became, how do you stand out from everybody else who does what you do, right? And I didn't know. I had built what I thought was a great product, but there was no way for me to stand out. And so I heard about Simon Sinek, who I've heard you talk about. I watched his TED Talk. I read his book. It's called Start With Why. And I said, that's the missing piece. The only problem was there was no way to know my why. I didn't know my why, so this great concept that he came up with didn't have any use for me. So I became obsessed with discovering my why. So I called Simon, and I said, Simon, help me go through.
You just called
Simon. I
Simon.
called him up. I said, hey, I need some help. Help me discover my why. And so he spent about 8 months with me, going through my life backwards, helping me discover what my why is. And I figured out that my why is to find a better way and then share it. So my life has always been about finding a better way to do things. I've got lots of patents and products and inventions that are all better ways of doing things. So once I discovered my why, I figured out a better way to do what Simon was trying to do, to help other people discover their why. Because when you know your why, see, the whole point of this is, when you know your why, what you do has more impact, has more meaning, has more focus. So this show, for example, is a reflection of you, right? It's called the Colt Show because of you.
I like to, kind of show the world what I'm about, what we've been doing on the show, I guess, yeah.
Yeah, and so on your website, you've got our why.
Yep, yes.
And so when we went through and discovered your why, we figured out that Colt's why is to make sense of the complex and challenging, right?
Yeah.
In fact, I brought something for you.
What'd you bring me?
I brought you a little wristband that says make sense, because that's his why, right?
That's awesome. Thank you for that. I really appreciate that.
But let's think about that for a minute. So your why is to make sense out of things that are complex and challenging. And this show is about helping people live an extraordinary life by helping them make sense of the challenges that they're facing so that they can move forward faster and have a bigger impact, right?
Yeah. How do people stay, once they find their why, how do people stay focused on their why? Because I think Simon talks about with organizations, you have to keep it though. You can have your why, but you can lose track of it. And if you lose track of it, people will know, your consumers will know, and so that's bad to do. So how do you stay focused with the why?
Well, you have a wristband for one, so you just look at it now.
Seriously, and it makes sense.
Well, what is my why? No, it's like having
awesome.
it's like having a vision, right? You have a vision for what you want to do, but sometimes you can get off course. You have a why that helps you direct your life. It's there whether you know about it or not, but having the awareness of what it is helps you stay on track. So if what you're doing in your life is in line with why you do what you do, you will have passion for what you do. So you have passion for what you do because you're helping all the rest of us make sense of the complex challenges we're facing. Do you have passion for this show?
I do, absolutely, yeah.
Would you do it all day long for free if you could?
I do
Oh,
it
maybe
all
you
day
are
long.
already. Well, okay.
For free, yeah.
Oh,
That's awesome. No. Well, what is so people can go to your website, thewhyinstitute.com, and it takes about 4 minutes. I don't know if our audience got a chance to do that during the
Yeah, so
the
a
break.
couple of them did. In fact, I talked to Dan that's in the audience, and he's an electrician. And his why came up as to do things the right way. Okay, so he's somebody that loves structure, process, systems, getting results. Wouldn't you like to know that your electrician thinks that way before you hire him?
Yeah.
And so if he was standing in a group of electricians, you'd have no way to figure out which one to choose. Except for Dan, we know how he thinks now. We know that's the guy we want to hire.
Well, how do we know that? How does someone like Dan market himself that he is that guy?
Perfect. So you use your why then to create your message. So in Dan's case, it's all about getting results. He follows a process or system to get consistent results. He'd create his messaging around that. That's what I do for companies, as a matter of fact. Really what I do, I'm a dentist, but on top of that, I have the Why Institute, where I help people that are experts at what they do, that want to have a bigger impact but don't know how to get their message out. I help them build their brand based on their why.
And I love that. Just on the phone conversation I had with you earlier this week, you were telling me of starting like my sentences with like "I believe" and state that to people, and
Yes.
so that they can understand where you connecting the dots, and if they are believe the same thing, they'll buy into your product. If not, then
it's okay.
It's all right. You go on to the next one. And
yeah, the simplest thing to do is just start by saying "I believe." If you say "I believe," it allows them to determine whether they believe what you believe. And if they do, they're like, yeah, I'm in. Okay, I got it, I'm in. I believe that if we give people the right information, they can create extraordinary lives. If you start that way, then I'll say, you know what, I believe the same thing. Yeah. I'm in, tell me more, tell me more. I want to know. But if you say, oh, I got a talk show. Oh, okay, well, what's it about? Right, then we got to go through a lot of other stuff to figure out, do I agree with you?
Yeah, that's a challenge that we go through all the time.
All the time.
Yeah.
So start it with I believe. If I believe the same thing, I lean in. If I don't believe the same thing, I'm just kind of like, all right, well, that's cool. So what else is going on?
Yeah, I love that. I love
Right?
that. So you give talks. So if people are interested in having you come talk about, help them get their why, if they're confused, they can go to thewhyinstitute.com and they can
Find me.
And find you, and they can use you, and
Yeah.
you can help them through that.
So a really critical thing that's been important for me is not so much to talk, but to actually do. Because every guru out there says, you got to know your why, right? Tony Robbins, Simon Sinek, Mark Twain, they all talk about you got to know your why. Well, yeah, I know I got to know my why, but it doesn't do me any good if I don't know my why. So when I speak at events, I help the audience actually discover their why so they can move forward faster.
And you've kind of found out that they kind of fall into certain categories, right? Like is there 9 categories that you've kind of consistently see people fall into?
Exactly.
That's so fascinating.
Yeah, when I became obsessed, they say that every invention that's ever been invented or ever will be invented is already here. It's already up there. It just takes someone to get emotionally involved with it to be able to see it so they can manifest it so the rest of us can use it. Like a song, right? A writer writes a song. It's already there. He's just so into it or she's so into it that they can hear it, they can play it, they can write it, and then we can use it. I just happened to be the one who got so involved with the why that I was able to see the 9 whys, so that now I created a software program where people can go online and discover their why.
That's so awesome.
Then they can use it. It doesn't do any good to talk. Once you know it, then you can use it. Then it has an impact in your life.
That's awesome. I love that. What I'm curious, what is your favorite Simon Sinek book?
My favorite thing about Simon Sinek is his TED Talk, actually.
Really?
Yeah, because
it's like the second. I think it's like the second most viewed TED Talk ever.
Second most of all time.
That's so insane.
So if you haven't seen it, go to the TED and look up Simon Sinek, and then you'll know exactly what we're talking about.
I love that. Everyone, I encourage you to check out Simon Sinek's work. Go check out his TED Talks. He has great books. Leaders Eat Last, I think, is probably one of my favorite books by him.
Yeah.
I really enjoy that one. And then get with Dr. Gary Sanchez, and he will go through. And it transformed my life so much when we've had that why focus with what we do, and that's what our whole show is kind of based upon now. So I encourage everyone to kind of do that with everything, everyone's profession. Go out and do that. But with that, Dr. Gary Sanchez, we are going to cut to a commercial break. But thank you so much for coming on the show. We really appreciate it, and I look forward with working with you down the road. And let's spread that why mission. Wait, I'm sorry, tech guys. Before we go, you have a goal that you are going to try to reach to 1 million people this year.
Yeah.
To help them find their why.
So my BHAG, as I heard you talk about earlier, my big, hairy, audacious goal is to help 1 million people discover their why, how, and what. When you put all 3 together, that's when it really has an impact. Not just your why, but your why, how, and what. That's when it really gives you the clarity to make better decisions and move forward.
That's awesome. Well, if we can help you out in any way, please keep us in mind. We would love to. We want to see that 1 million.
We'll stay together.
Please. Yes.
Thank you.
We'll be right back after this break, everyone. Thank you.
Thank you.
You have such a great personality.